from Scarlet Moon Creations, and I am back. This is my August reading wrap-up where I talk about the last of the books I read in the month of August and my reading stats, and tell you how I did with my calling for the Magical Readathon Orilium Autumn Equinox. I'm gonna call this complete success because that's what makes me feel good. But first, let's talk about my reading stats and the usual warnings. It's warm. It's 80 something degrees and I got the window open for some air and lights, and I live on the main street with a lot of traffic, even though it is early Saturday morning. And it's not too bad. You might hear ambient noises. I will edit out as much as possible as necessary, but fair warning. Now, so stop. So I finished a total of 7 books in the month of August, read 2,186 pages, 22 hours listened. Average rating was 3.86, and I read 1 Owned Voices book. For my genres, read 1 dystopian, 1 superhero, 1 contemporary, like lit fic, 1 epic high fantasy, 2 urban fantasies, and 1, I'm gonna say, romantic suspense, even though I'm always confused with this series. The formats, I read 2 audiobooks, 2 ebooks, and 3 physical books. The forms, I read them in. I read 5 novels and 2 comics, or graphic novels. Now that I'm thinking about it. Now we move on to the audience. All 7 books were adult focused or geared. The identity sections. For gender identity, I read 7 cisgender books. I really need to work on that. Diversifying my reads as far as different gender identities. With racial identity, I read 1 book with black main characters. With the sexual identity, everything I read was with cisgender main characters. I think this month and July, to a slightly lesser extent, is why I've been feeling I haven't been reading diversely. But I went back to look at all the other months of the year, and I'm like, okay. It's just, recent memory has you feeling a certain way, if that makes any sense. For the authors, I read 2 new to me authors and 5 authors that were not new to me. I read 1 author twice, and so they only count as new to me the first time I read a book. And then after that, obviously, it's not a brand new author anymore, right? For the types of books, 5 books from series and 2 standalones, only 1 reread. And last but not least, my ratings. I had 1 4.5 star read, 3 4-star reads, 3 3.5 star reads. So, a decent reading month, I can say. I'm not unhappy with it. This book I actually have a physical copy of. I have a physical copy of the majority of this series, but this reread, I'm rereading the whole series and trying to listen to the audiobooks because they're so popular and I didn't realize. The next book I finished this month was Grave Peril by Jim Butcher. This is book 3 in the series. This is an urban fantasy series, and we're following Harry Dresden, who is a wizard for hire, basically, kind of like PI to an extent, and he does often help the police, but he also helps regular people with usually magic, paranormal related issues to make money because he's poor. Once again, I think I'm in the minority in not loving the audio. It's by James Marsters, the guy who played Spike in Buffy, who I love. And his voice is great in general. I don't mind listening to him, but I think he brings a creep factor to Harry's character that icks me off. As far as women in particular, like, it's just like, dude, like, something I can let go for the time, brush off, I should say, because of the times, or I don't hear the tone when I'm reading it, so it's not, it's more ambiguous to me. But hearing James Marsters kind of like breathe and talk about her breast, I'm just like, is that necessary? Is it necessary? It makes it creepier. It's not just that though, and I mean, this is a paranormal heavy series, and we're gonna get some parts where creepy things happen, not just like man creeping on woman. It makes it lean a little bit more into the horror aspects, and maybe that's why people really enjoy his voice, but I don't know if I can continue listening to this series. I guess that means James does a really good job. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, so all of that aside, and I have seen over the past couple of years, on BookTube, people saying that book 3 is where the series really gets going, and I couldn't remember what exactly happens in book 3. The whole storyline is just one giant miasma in my brain. And rereading it, I was like, oh yes, that makes perfect sense. This novel brings in a lot of characters that I grew to love over the course of the rest of the series. Their impact on Harry and his life and his impact on theirs, it makes this series more nuanced, in my opinion. We get the vampires courts. We get more of Michael and his thing. We get a tiny little sprinkle of a hint of the White Council. We get more of Leia and the Fae and the connection to Harry, and these are all very important things. And Susan. Now, like, a whole bunch of things happens in this that impacts the rest, and it's just like, so I gave this a 4 stars. I rather enjoyed rereading it. I read this for my D in Conjuration. This was for D, Raise the Dead, Theory, Reread, a favorite. And it is very much a favorite. The next book I finished was Crowbones by Anne Bishop. This is another of my anticipated releases for 2022. And I basically read it in a day once I finally got to it. I read all the things I had to read that I was less enthusiastic first. And then finally at the end of the month, well, last week, I had all of the things I really wanted to read, including Great Peril. This is book 3 in the World of the Others series. Technically, I think book 8 in the Others. I don't know how she's doing this. But the World of the Others is kind of an offshoot of the Others. No, I haven't read or watched any interviews of hers, and she hasn't come anywhere near New York for book signings or anything like that, book tours. So I don't know exactly her thought process behind this series currently, but I'm still enjoying it. We're going back to the town we came to, or focused on in the first book in this series, The World of the Others. We're back with Vicky and who runs the Jumble. This would be a good October read, a good spooky read. Before I explain what happens, let me explain the world. This is a world that it's like an alternate version of Earth. Instead of humans having taken over most of the land masses on the planet, they weren't allowed to by the others. The others being more natural, non-humanoid beings on this planet. They're not animals, really, though some of them shapeshift. A lot of the ones who interact with human beings on a regular basis do shapeshift. They usually are called guard of some kind. In this one, the crow guard is a big thing. There are also vampires and various other shifters. There are others that are called like elementals. They have some connection to the four elements and maybe some others. And then there are the elders, who are have a lot less to do with humans, but are a lot stronger and more unknown. So the others have control over most of the land masses. So sometimes humans get upset about this and they try to take over, but the others slap them down because the others are not human. They don't think about justice and rights the way that we do. So it's always fascinating to see how a regular person and Bishop sees non-humans interacting with humans and their thought processes or whatever. So we're back in this town. Vicky Devine owns the Jumble, a place where others who want to get to know more about humans and how they do things can come and stay and live and interact with the local human town. Several of the crow guards stay with her. Because of that, they found out about Trickster Day, which is kind of an alternate Halloween, and everybody gets excited. There are some people coming to stay there because they're interested to see how the others would deal with Trickster Day, and the others come and they learn about dressing up in costumes and things like that. However, someone shows up on Trickster Day at the Jumble dressed as Crowbones, hence the title. Crowbones, it turns out, is kind of like the boogeyman for the Crow Guard, the shifters who turn into crows and back, and scares all the Crow Guard. But then deaths start happening. This series is full of death. I will also say, because I think I've forgotten with previous ones, there are animal deaths in this series because of the guards, the various shifter types. So in this one in particular, there is the death of a crow and also a very gruesome death of a crow. There is mutilation of crows, and also content warnings for the appearance of a cat being mutilated and killed. We don't see it happen, but they find the body. But just FYI, to figure out why Crowbones is there, the elders and the elementals basically shut down the town and don't let anyone leave. And the authorities and Vicky, the human people, as well as the Sanguinetti, which are the leaders of the town and also vampires, are trying to figure out why Crowbones is there and what's going on with these people. I feel like there is an unknown quantity and unknowingness. Like, we as regular people cannot understand the others. There's an attempt, and the trying to relate to each other and, you know, have communication and all of that is an ongoing theme throughout the series and in the others series, but it is fundamentally impossible to truly fully understand the others. Their motivations a lot of times are just so alien, so foreign, and unexplainable with human language. So I feel like that's okay, but I think this book took that to another level, and that detracted a little bit for me from the story. And it's not actually the others. I think that was the problem here. It was with certain humans who were from outside the town. Their motivations were not clear, and maybe that was left ambiguous on purpose. Maybe Bishop didn't really want us to be like, oh, that's mental illness or whatever. Like, the why at the end of the day, the why of the mystery is kind of left up to you, I think. Maybe not. Maybe I just didn't get it because I read it so damn fast. I fly through these because they are so compelling. I'm just like, I need to know. I need to know. I gave this a 4.5 stars, and this was my Magical Readathon read for Q in Conjuration. So Q was Tales the Bones Tell, Bones on the cover and in the title. So these are all bones, and obviously the title has bones in it. So I'm very well covered. When I saw that, I was like, well then, damn it, I have to become a necromancer, because this book was just released, literally. The next book that I finished in the month of August was Shadows and Death by J.D. Robb. This is a pseudonym for Nora Roberts. I had caught up to the series in 2020 with the 50th book, the Golden in Death. 50th anniversary is gold. And since then, I haven't been reading them. Usually 2 a year come out, or 1 a year, and it's like 1 hardcover and the paperback from previous year's hardcover. I forget. But anyway, so this is book 51 in that series, which is a futuristic suspense, romantic suspense. This is the one I'm always like, what do I categorize this as? This particular novel I'm going to put as romantic suspense. This series, we're following Lieutenant Eve Dallas and her husband Rourke. In the beginning of the series, they are not married. They don't even know each other. On the surface level, they seem to have nothing in common. Rourke is a gazillionaire Irishman, and Eve is a regular ass New York City police. What's below lieutenant? I forget. Her life is focused on being a police officer. They meet because of a case. Rourke is known to have a criminal past, but he has wiped his slate clean. There's not really proof that he was a criminal. It's futuristic because I believe the series starts in the 2030s, so we're coming close. How regular time is coming close to series time. And it's set in New York City, which I love. It's not the New York City that I currently live in, not the New York City I grew up in, but it's not so spectacularly different. Like, they live off of Central Park, so obviously Central Park still exists. There are things like hoverboards, and how people relate to each other is a little bit different. This particular entry, a woman is killed outside of a park, and a come to find out, she was a contract kill, and it's weird because she's a normal person. The killer is still on the site, and he reveals himself to Rourke, and turns out that guy and Rourke have a connection in the past. This particular novel, we focus very much on the case and solving it. Different entries, some are more romance heavy about the relationship between Rourke and Eve. Some are more about Eve's relationship with her crew and her partner, or how she's relating with friends or gaining new friends. Other novels are about how Eve and or Rourke are dealing with their very traumatic childhoods. So some of them are a little more psychological. Even some that are very case focused are more focused on the killers and some of their points of view. This one is more police procedural type thing, except we get to the end and it's bonkers. It was a little juvenile, maybe not, just a little. I was surprised because Eve would normally not go for that. This was a little indulgent, even before that particular scene towards the end. Just like everyone getting together and going to Ireland. I was like, y'all are ridiculous. We've been to Ireland before in this series, but not all these people. So I was amused. You can watch my vlog about reading that, because I was like, y'all, what? I wound up giving this as 4 stars. I did enjoy it. I do like all of the various aspects that we get in the different books. I feel like the bad guy was a little convenient, but that's why it's only a 4 stars. This I read for the Magical Readathon. O in spells and incantations. O is a spell, recolor, use a color wheel and pick a book matching that color. I did use a color wheel, and I spun it twice because I think the first time I got like lime green, and I didn't realize that there was all these colors in there. But I spun it again and I got yellow, and I picked Shadows and Death because the book cover has both. So that is the last book I finished in the month of August. However, I did, for the Magical Readathon, start 2 other books and finish 1. And I'm going to talk about that one here and just mention the last one that I didn't finish for my calling, but it's okay. But what happens is I didn't start reading in the month until August 4th. And I gave myself until September 4th, since that was the end of the week, to finish things. The next book I finished was The Haunting of Tramcar 015 by P. Jelly Clark. This is the next installment in the Dead Djinn universe, which I'm enjoying. And finally, now that I've read this, I can read the full novel Master of Djinn, the only full novel in this series. The Dead Djinn universe is set in an alternate Cairo, an alternate historical Cairo, so like the early 1900s, before the 1920s. I think in a previous, when talking about a previous book in this series, I said 1920s, but it's before 1920s. This Cairo is an alternate Cairo because a man figured out how to open doorways into other dimensions and crossed into, I think his name, the name they say is Al-Jahiz, if I'm remembering properly, and God knows if I'm pronouncing it. He crosses into another dimension, or opens a gateway to a dimension with Djinn, and Djinn enter the world. With doing this, somehow he messed up, I guess, the things that keep dimensions separate, and now other things have entered the world, including angels. Djinn being in the world, specifically in Cairo, made Cairo a more powerful nation made Egypt a more powerful country, and so the English were kicked out much earlier. The development of the country and the area of Northern Africa and the Middle East did not go the way things happened historically in the real world. The stories are basically set in this alternate history Cairo, which has advanced technology and magic. In this particular installment, The Haunting of Tramcar 015, the title is very direct. This is about the haunting of Tramcar 015. The other hallmark of this series is that in Cairo, there is a governmental agency that is in charge of protecting the citizens and figuring out paranormal and related things. So 2 agents have been dispatched to the transportation agency who called for help because they have a haunting in Tramcar 015. And this story is following those 2 agents trying to figure out what the hell is in this tramcar, why it's in there, and then trying to get it out and get rid of it. It was really fascinating. I love the atmosphere of this series, and P. Djeli Clark does a great job for me, who does not like, for the most part, novellas and short stories because I always feel like not enough. I always feel absolutely full and content after reading one of P. Djeli Clark's short stories or novellas, and this has not changed for this one. I was very entertained. The characters are very full and nuanced. The world is absolutely beautifully described, but not overdone. Like, no disrespect for those authors who read 700 plus page fantasy novels where we have like every blade of grass described in extreme detail, but this is just amazing to me, right? That I'm fully immersed in this culturally diverse Cairo and learning new things. So this I wound up giving 4 stars, and then the way it ended was very So I mean, again, this is like Crowbone, sorry, where there's an element of paranormal that we're just not gonna get as humans, but also this wasn't clear. So I don't know if it's purposefully amorphous or unclear, or it's just the author didn't give us what was necessary to make it clear, if that makes sense. I don't know. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it otherwise. I don't know what category to place this in, but that's okay. I will include this book and Gideon the Ninth, which is the last one for my calling, in my September wrap-up stats. But this, for the Magical Readathon, was for my O in Demonology, and that was In Wrangling Read a Fantasy. I had picked another book for this, and then it was too long. I was also very much dreading it. Not that it was bad, but that it was really going to hurt me emotionally. I know it is. So I was like, well, let me not read that. Here I have this novella that I know I'm going to love, and it's fantasy. So yeah, the last book for my calling was Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I was listening to the audio book for it, and that was for my O in Conjuration, the Foundations of Necromancy, a book with necromancy themes, and this definitely has that. This book, this trilogy so far now, I know people say lesbian necromancers in space as like a tagline, and yes, this is reading very YA, and I'm annoyed. I think I would enjoy this more if I read it, but I haven't had time to read it. I have an ebook from Tor.com that I downloaded for free a while ago. That's why I picked this book, but I don't put it on my tablet or on my phone. Right now it's on the laptop, and reading on the laptop right now is not conducive to whatever. But I won't say any more about this. I haven't finished it at the time of reading this. I did not put in that I had completed it in the Magical Readithon book form, so that's fine. But those were my 8 books for Magical Readathon. Necromancer, Calling. I'm just gonna call it done. I finished most of Gideon the Ninth. One extra book which I could not fit with any of the quests. So, if you made it this far, put a skull emoji for my Calling. If you want to support but don't know what to comment. Some other suggestions. Let me know what you read in the month of August. How was your August reading? And did you participate in the Magical Readathon Orilium Autumn Equinox? If you did, what was your calling and how did you do? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you are new, hit the notification bell so you know when the next video is coming out. I would really appreciate it if you would share this video as well so more people can see my content. I'm super grateful for you guys getting me to 200 subscribers and more in the time that I was away. It was like a vacation for me, to be perfectly honest. It wasn't planned, but that's what happened. Even though I had content filmed, I did not spend time editing and uploading it. I was just taking a mental health break, essentially. And I feel great and energized and ready to come back for more and to give you, all my new subscribers, new content as you've been seeing. And there's still some stuff I need to edit and upload that I have not from before as well. I know my channel is very eclectic with the type of content that I offer, so sharing is definitely something that will be very helpful to me. So welcome to all the new subscribers. Hello to all those who have been here with me for a while now. We're gonna keep on going. With all of that being said, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.